Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Good Monday morning to one and all. It is 5:07, and thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 6:05, Sean Kennedy, president of Virginians for Safe Communities. He'll talk about Governor Youngkin's commuting the sentence of a former police officer. Interesting story there. At 6:35, former Delegate Dave LaRocque. He'll be talking about his run for Virginia governor. And at 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. He'll give us his weekly legal analysis. And 8:05, General Jack Keane on the Zelensky-Trump fallout. And 8:35, we'll interview Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy on the Zelensky-Trump Oval Office blow-up. What a story there. I'm Julie Gunlock, sitting in for Larry O'Connor alongside my friend Joe Concha. Good morning, Joe.
Jules, how are you on this fine Monday morning?
Well, I'm fine, and I can't imagine what we're going to talk about, Joe. I mean, it was such a quiet weekend. Nothing much going on. Wow.
There are no weekends anymore. You know this.
It's like Lady Grantham. What's a weekend?
Exactly.
Let's go over this. Let's start with cut one. I want to kind of give a sense of for the three people in the D.C. area who didn't see this, and I think blow up is the right word.
Right. We're all dead.
Yes, exactly. Let's play cut one.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are not
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
That.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this.
I'm not
you're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards.
Playing cards.
But right now, you don't.
Yeah,
you're playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot of times.
No, in this
even
entire
today.
meeting, you said thank you.
Even today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Okay, so Joe, that was the blow up. But this was a much longer meeting. And I think, frankly, we don't have time, obviously, to show the whole 45 minutes. But there was a longer clip where it was still kind of civilized. It starts off a little bit more civilized. They're sort of talking. And so you see sort of what happened right before the blow up, because it wasn't 45 minutes of this. But I think the longer clip really does show just how disrespectful and aggressive Zelensky was from the beginning. But what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Julie, in this case, if you do watch, as I have, as you have, the full 46-minute video, it's clear Zelensky came in to try to dictate U.S. foreign policy, to try to negotiate, to J.D. Vance's point, in front of the American media, a media that has treated this guy like Churchill for the last 3 years, and he thought he still, to Trump's point, had this hand like he had a full house in poker when he didn't even have a pair of threes, right? So all I know is that Putin invaded other countries when George W. Bush was in office, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, when they were president. The only U.S. president in office in the 21st century when Putin didn't invade anyone was when Donald Trump was in power during his first term. And to publicly challenge Trump in front of the worldwide media in his own dojo, right, his own house, that was 31 flavors of stupid. So hopefully, Julie, this was the breakup before the makeup. Zelensky, he'd be wise to apologize and sign that raw minerals deal, which is great for his country, great for our country.
Yes.
You know, all he had to do, Scott Jennings was on CNN, and he made this point, go in, say thank you, and then ask, what are we having for lunch? That's all you had to do. Instead, he goes down this path. And by the way, can you wear a suit? Because he looked like he was about to go raise the roof at a club in Istanbul, right? You're in the Oval Office. A touch of respect, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I love it. But I also think it's really interesting that Zelensky met with a number of Democrats, including Chris Murphy, before that meeting, where he was essentially, I mean, we weren't in that meeting, but it's clear that he was sort of coached to go into that meeting and be aggressive. And I mean, you know, everybody's sort of talking about how aggressive he was, and they were sort of shocked by it. But it is completely messed up that a group of American politicians would coach a foreign leader on how to negotiate against a deal that's in his favor and good for his people, and against the president. I mean, I can't wrap my head around that. The fact that these Democrat senators, and I think Lindsey Graham was in the room as well, although he was very angry at Zelensky and basically said, "You're done. You need to, you should go home." But I really can't believe that a group of Democrats were essentially, like I said, coaching him to have this posture in the White House. I think Zelensky's, obviously made a big mistake, but I think he was kind of set up to do that by these Democrats.
That's the thing with Chris Murphy, right? I mean, I think he has eyes on being the next nominee for the Democratic Party. And he announced on CNN, of course, that he will stand in solidarity with his constituents in Ukraine and skip Trump's State of the Union address, joint address to Congress tomorrow night. And there's a reason for that, right? I mean, this is all about les résistants. And, we stand with Ukraine.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you stand with the American people?
Yeah.
Because at last check, we've given $350 billion to this war with $100 billion of it unaccounted for.
Yep.
Like, we don't know where it is, which tells me, I don't know, when you see Zelensky on the cover of Vogue with his wife, and she's shopping in Paris. I'm sorry. I have questions. The American people have questions. Chris Murphy, though, he's with the Zelensky constituency, which is, polling at 5% now at this point in this country? Give me a break.
Well, Joe, we have a lot more to cover on this issue. We will continue in just a moment. But first, it is 5:15. Let's get over to Jamie Witt.
WMAL, making sense of the news.
Excuse me, that was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins.
Okay,
you got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards, but without us, you don't have any cards.
I heard that, Joe, over the weekend. Sheets. I was like, what is he talking about? And then I realized it was blankets.
Yeah.
It was blankets. And, that's another part of this lack of respect and lack of thank yous and even some contrition for maybe, the way things have gone. You think about what Trump has given. It's not just $350 billion, while large segments of America have really suffered over the last couple of years. But the fact that he gave them weapons, and I do love that he said sheets, but that adds to this frustration with Zelensky. His posture after receiving, I mean, it really was like watching, a teenager who's angry that their allowance hasn't been raised.
A teenager that has always been told yes.
Yes.
Right? Can I stay out past midnight? Yes. Can I have $100 to go out tonight? Yes. That's Zelensky, because the only two things he's ever heard from the Biden-Harris administration was yes, right? And, a question. Who do I make this blank check out to? Because that's basically how it's gone now for the past 3 years. And he's now being told you don't hold the cards anymore, because he does not. We could be talking about 5 years from now. We could be guest hosting this show, and we'd be talking about a stalemate in eastern Ukraine, right, in that Donbass region. And the Russians can't get to Kyiv, but, hey, we're keeping the war going. We're wearing down Russia, which you don't wear down Russia. You can throw bodies at the problem all day long. Ukraine can't afford that. So that's where we are at this point. This has to end. And the only way it ends is by signing the raw minerals deal. Then you have corporate boots on the ground, by the way. Because
that's right.
Right? It's the economic aspect. We're not going to allow anything to happen to Ukraine as long as we have that kind of financial stake in the whole thing. And then the Europeans will provide actual military boots on the ground. It's a great deal for Ukraine. It's the only deal they can make. And, of course, Zelensky, I don't think he wants peace. I think he wants this war to continue in perpetuity because he likes the money that comes into his country.
I have to say, though, Joe, in your years in Washington, have you ever seen anything like this? I have never seen anything like it. I think it was fascinating. I also think that it shows how unexpected. I don't think that they thought Zelensky was going to come in with this attitude. But have you ever seen anything like this?
Never, ever. In the Oval Office, in front of the worldwide media like that, you had a U.S. president basically telling a Ukrainian president who's the boss, not only in that relationship, but in the world right now. And he should be thankful for being in that position. Zelensky should. And instead, he goes in there after being coached by Chris Murphy of Connecticut, an American politician, a senator, and saying, you know what, you got to resist here. Well, guess what? The American people did not like this at all, and even Democrats, not the ones you see on TV, but most are probably like, we want an end to this war. Enough of this.
I want to play a couple more clips here. Cut 3, Michael.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone.
Cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and you men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
There's a couple things here that I want to talk about before this clip happened, because he was talking to JD and he called him JD. I don't know if did you notice that he called him JD.
Yeah.
And he also he apparently under his breath sort of called JD Vice President Vance. I'm not going to do it. Vice President Vance, sort of a bad word. I don't know if you saw that clip too, where he was so aggressive. And then what frustrates me is a lot of the news media was playing this clip. It's like President Trump and Vice President Vance had taken this for, the whole clip was 46. The whole thing was 46 minutes. They had taken this for like 40 minutes. And it's just this last few minutes where where Trump was really aggressive. But, right there, you can hear Trump's frustration of, you're in trouble. Your people are dying. Why aren't you thrilled that there's a potential? We make this economic deal. We are in your country. We are doing business in your country. That's the security. And then we go for the peace. There's an order to things. So you can sort of hear the frustration in Trump's voice of, how are you not thrilled with this? Also, after $350 billion, how are you not thankful? Anyway, It's just interesting how it built up so much that it took Trump a long time to really blow, in my opinion.
Completely. And we have more than a few in our patently dishonest, lazy media, again, claiming that President Trump is on the side of Russia. while he's trying to broker a peace that would save Ukraine, end this stalemate. You heard Chris Murphy on CNN with Dana Bash nodding along, of course, because she's a serious journalist. Here's what he said, quote, Trump is aligning with dictators to transition American into an oligarchy. If the U.S.'s closest partner is Russia, then it's easier for Trump, Musk, and their billionaire pals to steal from the American people. Oh, give me a break. What's been stolen from the American people is, again, $350 billion, to Trump's point, that our previous stupid president gave to Ukraine, and he's trying to stop that, stop people from dying. And the argument that, oh, we're on the side of Russia? Again, no one invaded during Trump's first term when Putin was in power. They only did under Bush, under Obama, under Biden. So the fact that this is now being echoed by the American media, it's just a whole bowl of wrong, and that dog don't hunt.
Yeah, and we've got more on this. Zelensky ran over to Europe to cry more, and so we'll cover that and many other topics.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36, and it's a busy Monday morning. So much to talk about today. Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 6:05, Sean Kennedy, president of Virginians for Safe Communities. He'll talk about Governor Youngkin commuting the sentence of a former police officer. At 6:35, former delegate Dave LaRocque. He's running for governor. He's got a lot to tell us. 7:05, Joe DeGeneva, and 8:05, General Jack Keane on what's next for Ukraine. At 8:35, Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy on the Zelensky-Trump Oval Office blow-up. I'm Julie Gunlock, sitting in for Larry O'Connor, alongside my friend Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, columnist, author of the upcoming book, The Greatest Comeback Ever Inside Trump's Big, Beautiful Campaign. Good morning, Joe.
Unburdened by what has been, Julie. I want to add that to the title, but they said, it's too long.
It's too long.
Yeah, we don't write Moby Dick anymore. It has to be like a title that's like, as long as like the movie Titanic, so go figure.
Well, look, Joe, he's a bad penny. He's a bad penny. He's back. Andrew Cuomo is launching a mayoral bid. Has anybody checked in on Janice Dean? Come on, you're at Fox. What? I mean, it's... not
Janice
again.
is a lovely, lovely person. And,
Yes.
I'm not being sarcastic. I mean, she genuinely is like a really good person.
Right.
Everybody loves Janice.
Except
he's going to win. He's going to win by like 50 points. I mean, there's no stopping this freight train that is Andrew Cuomo. I just can't wait to see another big, Q-tip with Chris Cuomo and Andrew Cuomo, like doing the buddy thing again on TV. I mean, that's just the way it goes in New York. He's got name recognition. Yay, killed 13,000 people in nursing homes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's so
Oh,
2020.
Oh, well, your business, you got your business shuttered. Kids can't read. Granny's dead. But, It's his time again. I mean, it is just sickening to me. I always think about Profumo, right? The British defense secretary who was, caught in a sort of a sex scandal. This happened in the 60s. And once he was caught, he resigned and he dedicated his life to charity and gardening. He just went away. This doesn't happen anymore. You go away for maybe a year and then you do an apology tour and then you're back. I mean, this just amazes me. We don't have a cut here of him saying that he's gonna run, but it really does make me kind of sick that you're right, he's gonna win.
If Marion Barry in Washington, D.C., my former home, can smoke crack, get caught smoking crack, and then still, be fine as far as his political aspirations, then, I guess that's the way it works now these days in politics. New York has a budget shortfall of $4 billion. They elected Bill de Blasio twice. Eric Adams hasn't been much better as far as crime goes in that city. And everybody just, it seems, because, again, it's not like, the Democrats barely winning, like by 30, 40, 50 points. I guess the city's all fine with that, yet they're losing all this tax revenue of all these people that are leaving for places like Florida, Tennessee, Texas, South Carolina, red states, because they're taxed too high. They don't get any return on their investment on those taxes, and they see immigrants being housed in 4-star hotels and the city paying for it, and they're just going to keep electing this over and over again. And for the life of me, I'm from New Jersey. It's not so much better here either. They're just going to keep doing it because, well, it's Andrew Cuomo, and I guess, he was a good governor once.
He's using the current situation in New York as the reason why you should elect him. He said in an he said this during an announcement. He said, COVID, my friends, was the greatest threat faced in a generation. It was life and death, as serious as it gets, and it wasn't as scary as it gets. And New York, we had it first, and we had it worst, and we were on our own, and no one knew what to do. But we did what we did. We came together, we stood tall, we stood strong, and we faced the challenge head on. And he's basically saying, and I will save it again. So he's suggesting that he saved the city during the pandemic. He managed it so well. And then he points to the current situation in New York, the disaster that it is, what you just laid out. And he's saying, and that's why I should be elected. I mean, what kind of brain rot is this? And frankly, it will convince many New Yorkers. It's hard to have sympathy for New Yorkers, frankly, when they keep reelecting these idiots.
And in the New York Times, which is the biggest paper that we have around here, of course, will not call him out on the fact that he says, we did it alone in terms of fighting COVID. No, you didn't.
You didn't.
President Trump sent 2 warships to serve as nursing homes to New York Harbor. The Javits Center got the National Guard in. Javits Center is huge, by the way. If you're not from New York, it is like many city blocks huge, like bigger than a football stadium huge. And none of those beds were used because this guy sent everybody back to nursing homes where 15,000 people died. And the fact that he can go in here and make the claims that you just read, and the New York Times will not call him out on that in any way, shape, or form, and local media, for the most part, I've been watching ABC, CBS, NBC here. Nope, it's almost like a celebration that, finally, a real leader's coming back. It's like, do you guys have any shame? It's the death of shame at this point.
It really is, but luckily, and I do want to give a shout out to Janice Dean. She did lose her father-in-law and her mother-in-law due to these policies of Cuomo's, and she will for sure remind New Yorkers of what he did. We have more coming up. It's 5:43.
Chris Plant, weekdays 9 to noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
So most of you have seen the video or heard the audio from the White House, the sort of blow up. They're calling it the blow up in the White House with Zelensky and Trump and J.D. Vance. But there was another person there. There are many people there, actually, including the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, who at the end had her head in her hands, and she looked like she was going to throw up, literally. But the other person in the room of note was Marco Rubio, and I couldn't stop laughing because there is this picture. There's this picture of Vance and Rubio sitting next to each other, and it just reminded me of my own 2 kids, where one will be getting in trouble and the other one will be sitting there going, just don't poke mom, don't keep poking mom, because Vance has a smile on his face and Rubio looks like he wants to kill Zelensky, but he also looks like, oh, this isn't going well, and you know that in his mind he's like, I'm going to have to clean this up, and it is kind of his role to sort of find this peace deal and this economic deal, and he explained this brilliantly over the weekend. Let's play cut 6.
Here is claiming Vladimir Putin is going to get the Nobel Peace Prize this year, or that he should be the Man of the Year of the Humanitarian Association. What we're arguing here is he has a very large country. They're in full war footing. They're cranking out weapons now at a war footing pace. And we need to figure out, is there a way to get them to stop the war? And the only way you're going to do that is to get Russians engaged in negotiations, something the Europeans haven't been able to do, the Biden administration wasn't able to do or didn't even try. That's the goal here. It's that simple. Can we try to sit with them and figure out whether there's anything, what are the Russians' demands. Under what conditions would the Russians be willing to stop this war? And as I said, we don't know what those are because we haven't talked to them in 3 years. That's the singular goal here, is to try to bring about an end to this conflict, and it begins by getting them to the table. Ultimately, like any truce, like any peace agreement anywhere in the world, those things will have to be enforced, they'll have to be enduring, there'll have to be safeguards put in place. Everybody understands that. But it begins with the first step, and that is engaging them to see if it's even possible. Because if it's not possible, then what we're looking at is a protracted stalemate with thousands of people dying, billions of dollars pouring in, and more death and destruction. And that's not something the president wants to be a part of. He's made it very clear.
Aren't those talks feasible only if the United States is willing to also provide security guarantees to Ukraine? That was the point that President Zelensky was also making in the Oval Office.
Well, the security guarantees, which I actually like to call deterrence, is all contingent upon there being a peace. Everybody's saying security guarantees to secure the peace. You first have to have a peace. We don't even know if the peace is possible. And this was understood by the Ukrainians. It was explained to them repeatedly. And that is, here's our strategy. We're trying to get Putin to a negotiating table. Let's not rehash. Everyone knows the history here, the back and forth. We understand that. We all understand that. But the question now is, can we get them to a table to negotiate?
What Rubio is trying to say here is Zelensky has it backwards, right? He has it completely backwards. He wants the security sort of guarantees, what Zelensky means is boots on the ground. He wants U.S. troops there, okay? And Trump is saying that's a provocation that is going to lead to World War III. He said that to Zelensky in the White House. He said, you're playing around with World War III. This is very dangerous. So Zelensky wants boots on the ground and the so-called security guarantees when there isn't even, and I mean, that sort of thing before there's a peace deal for the president to suggest that, yes, I'll put boots on the ground. I'll put American troops on the Russian border. That would in no way lead to peace. So what Rubio is saying is Zelensky has it backwards. We have to get the Russians to come to the table to work on this peace deal. We've got an economic deal it was literally sitting on the coffee table in front of him that was ready, that would have put them on the track of sitting down with the Russians. But Zelensky, again, he wanted guarantees. He wanted boots on the ground, and it's not going to work that way. I want to also play this second cut 7, where Rubio is talking about how the U.S. will re-engage with Ukraine when they're ready to make peace.
We'll be ready to re-engage when they're ready to make peace, which is clearly what the president's goal is here. He's trying to get Russia to the table to see if there's a way to bring about an end to this conflict. That's his goal. That's his only goal. That's his centralized focus. And, hopefully we'll get to a point where that's possible.
I got to say, there is nobody I'm more impressed with in this administration. I'm impressed with so many people, but boy, Rubio is really impressing me. He is so strong, he is so good, and he is excellent at representing Trump's vision. And it is a new vision for the world. We'll have more on this and many other issues. It is 5:52 on O'Connor and Company.